godfather. Pratt is seen here with his wife Linda, Afeni, Tupac, and Tupac's sister Sechoa. They reportedly brought a false background poster into Pratt's prison for this picture. LA FBI COINTELPRO leader Richard Held had orchestrated a police raid of the LA Panther office in 1969. Police snipers shot up Pratt's bed in that raid, but Pratt saved himself by sleeping on the floor due to a bad back acquired as a Vietnam veteran. Richard Held then framed Pratt for murder in 1970. Through the 70s, Mutulu's Shakur's Lincoln Detox reportedly had great success at battling addiction. Before the end of the decade, the mayor's office forced Lincoln Detox to close, possibly due to its political education component. By around 1980, some activists resorted to robbing banks to raise money for healthcare needs in the South Bronx. In 1981, an armored truck robbery resulted in the death of a police officer. The FBI blamed Mutulu Shakur and other former Lincoln Detox employees, leading many to go into hiding that year. Mutulu tried to show his face to his stepson Tupac every now and then for encouragement. The FBI visited Tupac in school, asking him if he had seen Mutulu. Police also accused Mutulu of helping break Tupac's Aunt Assata Shakur from jail. Assata had joined Mutulu's brother Zaid Shakur in the clandestine Black Liberation Army. Police pulled their car over in New Jersey, and a shootout ensued. A police officer and Zaid Shakur were killed. Assata now lives in political exile in Cuba. Mutulu had apparently hid with the aid of his brother, Lumumba Shakur, who was murdered around the time of Mutulu's arrest in 1986. Concluding Mutulu's trial, the sitting judge, Charles Haight, stated that the FBI used COINTELPRO tactics to violate Mutulu's rights in the late 1970s. Mutulu said that with extensive electronic surveillance, no tape-recorded evidence linked him to the Brinks truck robbery and murder. No fingerprints were found on any immovable objects in 12 houses checked as to where the FBI purported the crime was planned. U.S. intelligence had used this case to arrest dozens of activists throughout New York State and beyond. Despite 115 witnesses and 532 exhibits, virtually the entire case rested on a paid government informant who actually committed the murder of the Brinks truck guard. Paid informant usually means undercover infiltrating agent. The government sentenced that informant to 6 years in jail and released him after 6 months. Mutulu was only convicted of conspiracy to aid bank expropriation, not the actual crime. He received 60 years imprisonment with a recommendation of no parole. Black Liberation Army member Sekou Odinga and Weather Underground activists such as Kathy Boudin and Marilyn Buck also received decades-long prison terms. And finally, Dr. Alan Berkman, a longtime activist, became the first doctor since the time of Lincoln's assassination to be imprisoned for providing medical aid to a fugitive. Agents in other reports noted how despite that the FBI purported to eliminate its counterintelligence program in 1971, the FBI continued it under different names. For example, in this court document, Judge Charles Haight found that police intelligence continued such tactics against the Black Liberation Movement's WLIB radio in the 1980s. After Mutulu had gone underground, Afeni moved her kids from house to house trying to get shelter. With the FBI helping block her employment, she was impoverished and desperate while still participating in activist projects. A drug dealer named Legs McNeil entered her life at this vulnerable time and, according to one interview of Afeni, stuck a crack pipe in her mouth whenever she came home at night. Researchers found a number of instances when U.S. intelligence likely used the tactic of placing an undercover agent in activists' life to manipulate them. For example, the head of the Vietnam Veterans Against the War found out his lover worked for U.S. intelligence to sabotage his work. Police intelligence also placed an undercover agent near Malcolm X's daughter, Kabila Shabazz, who helped frame her for conspiring to murder Louis Farrakhan, allegedly for his involvement in her father's assassination. Also, former Black Panther Lilu Lee produced the documentary All Power to the People. He cited U.S. intelligence's use of this tactic versus Huey Newton. The documentary includes many Black Panther leaders stating their belief that U.S. intelligence inserted an undercover agent Lover into Huey Newton's life to manipulate him when he got out of jail in 1970. Researchers support that this Lover and other undercover agent infiltrators convinced Newton to expel many Panthers, including Geronimo Pratt. Meanwhile, Tupac grew up with an extended family of Black Panther mentors, including Bronx Panther leader Sekou Odinga's wife, Yasmin Fula, seen here with Tupac and her son, Yafu Fula. Yafu later became Tupac's backup singer, Yak, aka Gaddafi, in the Outlaws rap group. Tupac starred in a play in Harlem and wrote rap songs, but when Harlem Reverend Herb Daltrey asked 13-year-old Tupac what he wanted to be when he grew up, Tupac said, "A revolutionary." Tupac kept to all of his ambitions. By 1984, Afeni moved her family down near cousins in Baltimore, Maryland. She fought to get Tupac into the Baltimore School for the Arts. Tupac excelled there and met lifetime friend Jada Pinkett, who later found success in Hollywood and also married actor Will Smith. At this time, Tupac attended meetings of the New African Panthers, the young adult group of the New African People's Organization, or NAPO. One of Tupac's lifetime mentors, former Ram-based LA Black Panther Watani Tayahimba, was a co-founding national security director of NAPO. By the end of Tupac's junior year of high school, several crack-related murders occurred in the Shakur's neighborhood. That summer of 1988, Afeni decided to move the family to Oakland and stay with Geronimo Pratt's wife, Linda Pratt. Before the end of Tupac's senior year of high school, the New African Panthers elected Tupac as their youngest ever national chairman. According to Tupac, the group attempted to replicate his mother's Black Panthers without making the same mistakes. NAPO National Chairman Chokwe Lumumba said Tupac had the top sales of NAPO's newspaper by any means necessary in California. Tupac started a newspaper insert, Panther Power, for his group. Both NAPO and the New African Panthers were active in 8 cities at that time. Tupac had also been rapping, doing musical benefits for his imprisoned godfather, Geronimo Pratt. He also said he was strategizing with both Pratt and the Black Panther Minister of Defense, which was Panther co-founder Huey Newton's title. Authorities had imprisoned Newton on a small charge in 1988 and incidentally put him in prison with Pratt at San Quentin. Pratt took Newton under his wing. The two compared their government files their lawyers had helped them obtain, and it ended the split the FBI and CIA had started against them. Here's an older picture of Pratt welcoming Newton when he first got out of prison in 1970, before Pratt's expulsion. When authorities released Newton from prison on August 22, 1988, he refused to leave and instead held a press conference the following day. This officially ended the FBI's 18-year split of 2 key leaders. Pratt convinced Newton to leave and work for his release on the outside. It appeared more than coincidence that exactly 1 year later, on August 22, 1989, gunmen assassinated Newton. Newton organized to release Pratt and talked to East Coast Panthers about reforming the Black Panthers. The FBI's LA COINTELPRO leader, Richard Held, had moved back to head the FBI's San Francisco Bay office in 1986. TV news stations caught him lying when he said they had no suspects, and witnesses described it as an execution rather than a random drug death. Martin Luther King's family lawyer, William Pepper, reported that they used this kind of threat timing tactic when they assassinated Martin Luther King on the anniversary of MLK's Riverside speech, officially coming out against the Vietnam War on April 4th in 1967. By 1990, Tupac Shakur decided to leave his New African Panther leadership to tour with the Grammy-nominated rap group Digital Underground. Here, Tupac's seen with Digital Underground on stage. He had already recorded an album's worth of songs in 1989, which a Digital Underground member found and produced in the late 1990s, titled The Lost Tapes. It included a song titled after his New African Panthers newspaper insert, Panther Power. The song's lyrics included lines such as, "Couldn't survive in this capitalistic government because it was meant to hold us back with ignorance. Drugs and sneak attacks in my community, they killed our unity." Here he had started writing songs with political terminology. He soon decided to keep political ideas in his lyrics, but gave up the terminology, apparently to not lose less educated